Welcome to the latest planning outlook that's updated on Tuesday the 9th of June. We're getting into quite a messy weather pattern, one in which low pressure is going to slowly drift around quite close to the British Isles, typically centred toward the south. It will generate some very strong easterly winds in the later part of this week, then drawing in some warm and humid air from central parts of Europe, but always an ever-present risk of some heavy bursts of rain, even onwards through the weekend. Start off with a quick glance at the general air mass temperatures. This is the 850 millibar chart, which is going to represent around 1500 metres in the next week or so, so a bit higher up in the atmosphere than the mountain summits exist across the British Isles. It will give us that feel for where we're going though, and the relatively cool air at the moment will be pushed away by increasingly warm and humid conditions moving around from the near continent. And as we go onwards through the weekend into next week, generally the temperatures at low levels will be rising into the low 20s, a few spots hitting the mid-20s on a few days. Some western regions to the lee of high ground doing pretty well whilst ever that easterly wind continues, and temperatures on the mountains generally up towards double figures even on higher terrain. So quite a bit warmer than what we've been used to at the start of June at least. These are the charts for your next few days. Wednesday sees a general area of low pressure developing across the British Isles. It's going to drift very slowly to the south. It's got a wraparound of fronts just tangled around it, so some slow moving areas of rain, some places sticking with rain for a few hours, others escaping a little bit more often dry. The heaviest of the more prolonged rain, I think, focused across Wales and even towards southwest England later on in the day. Risk of rumble of thunder as things are pretty unstable in that pattern. Pretty light winds though at this point, but by the time we get through into Thursday, as that low pressure moves away towards Biscay and high pressure starts to build into the north, a strong east or northeasterly is going to exist, and that is likely to be up to gale force across the higher tops with some very powerful gusts to some lower slopes locally as things stabilise and the air is squeezed over the hills. So some very gusty passes and corries, I think areas around the Pennines and the Lake District, and Snowdonia too, seeing the strongest of those east by northeasterly winds. Now some low cloud and residual rain affecting some eastern hills, but on balance, much of Scotland and perhaps even the Lake District may escape with a mainly dry day, whilst what's left of previous weather is across Wales with some heavy bursts of rain still potentially in the forecast. It's all quite a messy situation, so day-by-day detail is awkward. It's always the case when these things just start moving around slowly. High pressure stays to the north on Friday, low pressure around Biscay. We've got that easterly wind that's still strong, and some areas of rain and low cloud just pivoting in from the North Sea, and that could set in for a good few hours in some places. Other places may well escape with just one or two showers and mainly dry conditions. Just keep an eye on your local detail, because even at a couple of days out, the precise info isn't quite there in the forecast at this time. The weekend isn't going to be any simpler at this distance, but the general message is much the same, that high pressure is to the north and low pressure is toward the southwest. It's areas of showers and the odd heavy, perhaps thundery burst of rain that will be around locally, some places escaping with dry weather much of the day, but that will vary from place to place. Perhaps northwest Scotland, the more likely for staying drier for longer nearest to that zone of high pressure. A tentative suggestion by Sunday that low is just pulling a little bit further away and reducing the risk of showers, but with a warm and fairly humid atmosphere, it won't take much to get the odd one or two going, so still that risk of some localised bursts of rain forming, at least by this stage, the wind dropping much lighter than what will have been seen at the end of this week. There's not such a lot of detail that we can get out of the forecast into next week, apart from to say that low pressure is still somewhere around over Central Europe. It might be that we just start to be influenced by low pressure around Iceland as well. All a very slack pattern, so I think not much wind, but still relatively unstable, so always that scope for a few localised bursts of rain to pop up Monday and Tuesday of next week as well, forming mostly well inland by the time we get through into the late afternoons. A suggestion that higher pressure over the Atlantic may start to show itself further down the line. I'd suggest we stick with this rather mixed, slow-moving pattern through this middle part of June. So we're not really immediately going back to genuinely settled weather, but with time we might just get that high from the Azores to make some progress as we go onwards toward the following weekend. That's around the 20th, 21st of June. A long way off in this sort of pattern to get any confident detail, though, it must be said. So I'll leave it there for today. Keep an eye on your local forecast for your area, updated every single day on our website, and I'll have the latest video for you on Friday of this week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.